Good evening, Zimbabwe. This is Change Radio News. Today is 19 February 2026. The news read by Tinashem Tamiri. Here are the news headlines. Chatunga Mugabe arrested after shooting at Johannesburg home. Opposition platforms move to unite against Mnangagwa's term extension. Blessed Mhlanga slams media repression at UN convention. And now for the news in detail. A shooting occurred at a home in Hyde Park, Johannesburg, belonging to the son of former Zimbabwe President Robert Mugabe. Eyewitness News reports that an employee at the property was shot and is in critical condition. Police are on the scene investigating the incident. Bellarmine Chatunga Mugabe has since been arrested in connection with the shooting. More details are expected as investigations continue. Plans are gathering momentum to unite two platforms formed to fight Emmerson Mnangagwa's term extension. The Defend the Constitution platform and the Constitutional Defense Forum are drafting a memorandum of understanding to form a united front. The Defend the Constitution platform was launched in January by opposition and civic activists, including Senator Jameson Timber and Jubeko Sivanda, as well as civic veterans Job Sikala and Jacob Ngarivume. Former Finance Minister Tendai Biti launched the Constitution Defenders Forum this month to rally opposition to what he calls the current constitutional coup. The planned coalition aims to become a new rallying point for all forces opposing Mnangagwa's proposed constitutional changes, which include extending the presidential term from 5 to 7 years and abolishing direct elections. Journalist Blessed Mhlanga delivered a hard-hitting speech last night at the UN convention in Geneva, Switzerland. He detailed the history of ZANU-PF repression of the media leading up to his own arrest and the treatment he endured in prison. Let's hear part of his speech.
For 25 years, I've been reporting on stories in Zimbabwe that others dared not to touch. That has been my work. But it was disrupted last year when the Zimbabwean regime sent me to 75 days of horror, a hell in pre-trial detention, for another man's speech. A speech made at a press conference that was broadcast at a TV station I work for. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the new face of repression in Zimbabwe, laced with sophistication. In the past, it was naked violence on the streets, abductions, and forced disappearances. This has changed. It is now violence committed through the legal system, what I call lawfare, violence by law. In February 2025, the regime arrested me and charged me with transmitting messages likely to incite violence, even though I had no involvement whatsoever in this alleged crime. I was denied bail three times, a violation of our constitution. The state deliberately misled the court, presenting redacted transcripts that were deliberately manipulated to support their allegations of violence and to keep me in prison without trial. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I sit in front of you, free but not free, without chains in my hands, but chains in my mind and pain in my heart. I was given bail. My passport was taken. Freedom to move or work taken away from me, and under bail conditions.
Constitution Defenders Forum member Baird Gore has been released without charge. The officer commanding at Harare Central's Law and Order section declined to proceed with allegations of holding an illegal demonstration, stating the case was unsustainable. Gore was returned to Machipisa police station and released into the custody of his lawyer from Zimbabwe Lawyers for Human Rights. His arrest comes as voices grow louder against proposed constitutional amendment bill. The CDF has condemned Gore's alleged abduction, assault and removal from hospital and is now calling on the Zimbabwe Republic Police to investigate the matter. Let's hear more from the following.
Zvinhu zvinokarishamadza kana kuti zvinhu zvinosvodesa kuti munhu apambiwa mushure mokunge pambiwa kwakuenda naye pachipatara ataenda pachipatara paya ari pakati nepakati pokuti arapiwe mapurisa vanosvika vomutora vachiti vane mibvunzo yavari kuda kuti andopindura. Saka zvakatishamisa chaizvo tikati zvino zvakureva chinyi, asi tinoda kutenda malawyers, tinoda kutenda nevese vakabatsira vari kuramba vachibatsira kusvika pari zvino. Mukoma Gore vari kuita vachiita zviri nani, tinotenda. Chiitiko ichi maitikiro achakaita ndeokuti zvigananda nevamwe vavo from ZANU-PF vari kuda kuti tiwe kurya uye tiwe kuvhunduka, asi isu hatisi kuzovhunduka nekuda kwemuitiro wavo iwoyo. Nokuti ukaona baba vorova vana pamba pavo nokuti vana vati aiwa mumba mune zhara muna chokurya muna chokumwa, ziva kuti ivo baba vakundikana. Saka aisa hatizobve pamusha, asi ivo baba ndivo vachatiza pamusha vana nokuti vatokura vari kuona kuti baba havana chavachagona, ndosaka muchiona vakungozama kukwara vakufunga kuti tikabata icho pamwe zvingaita, tikazama icho zvingaita. The constitution tichaidefenda tisingatyi tisingavhunduki. Isu sebandiko reCDF tichakoka mwana wose akazvipira kuti tibatane tidefende the constitution pasina kutya kana kuvhunduka. So ndinokutendai chaizvo hama neshamwari, matimana enyika ngatisimukei tese, ngatibatanei tese. Rume rimwe harigone kukomba churi, zvinotoda kuti tikomberane kuti tigone kurwa hondo iyoyo. Ndinotenda.
A controversial clause in the Medical Services Amendment Bill seeking to liberalize abortion has been rejected. Deputy Minister Slimani Kwidini told senators that Clause 11, which would have allowed abortions on request up to 20 weeks without parental or spousal consent, had been smuggled into the draft and was not part of the original bill presented in the National Assembly. The Ministry of Health distanced itself from the provision. Lawmakers across party lines signaled they would not support it. The government says any such forms would require a separate bill. A 2-year-old toddler who was abducted at Miku's Mall on Tuesday has been found alive and unharmed. Asanda Ndlovu was recovered this morning at a city flat in the company of a woman suspected to be the kidnapper. The breakthrough came after a member of the public tipped off private security technicians who reviewed CCTV footage and alerted CID homicide. Police acted swiftly and rescued the child. Investigations are continuing. At least 4 people are dead and dozens more injured after a bus plunged off the N1 near Makado in the early hours of Thursday morning. The bus was carrying around 31 passengers from Gauteng to Musina when it veered off the road and into a ditch near Chambuzi Valley. Emergency services rescued several people trapped in the wreckage, while others were rushed to hospital. The cause of the crash is under investigation. It is the second deadly accident on this stretch of the N1 in recent months. In October last year, 43 people died after a bus crash in the same area. The Minister of Youth Empowerment and Vocational Training, Tino Machakaire, has been criticized by citizens for indicating that formal academic qualifications alone may not be sufficient to secure employment in the country. Citizens say his statement that you may go to university but without a National Youth Service certificate, you may struggle to get a job and you will suffer, smacks of a lack of coherence in the government's position on education. They point out that if it is a strategic design, as the minister pointed out, then it should be deliberately stipulated as a government strategic position. Critics view the position as a ZANU-PF way of frog-marching youth into brainwashing them into ZANU-PF programs in the hope of getting employment at the end. And in news from local communities, Zimbabwe is losing an estimated $1.36 billion annually, nearly 4% of GDP, due to gender-based violence. Preliminary findings from a World Bank study show losses stem largely from reduced productivity and long-term social impacts. Officials say the findings will guide new prevention and support policies. A grieving family in Stanger took the body of their deceased relative into a local Capitec bank branch on Wednesday. They claim the bank refused to process a funeral claim without proof of death. This is the second such incident in the area. In 2023, another family carried a coffin into a Capitec branch at Kwadukuza Mall over alleged delay in a funeral insurance payout. In international news, a South Korean court has sentenced former President Yoon Yeol to life in prison for masterminding an insurrection. The 65-year-old was found guilty over his failed attempt to impose military rule in December 2024. His order was overturned by Parliament just 6 hours later. Supporters of the former president gathered outside the Seoul courthouse as the verdict was delivered. Yoon's former defense minister was also found guilty and sentenced to 30 years. Yoon is already serving jail time for a separate conviction related to the martial law decree and faces further trials. His lawyers say they will consult with him on whether to appeal. And finally, in sports news, Caps United have strengthened ties with Malawian champions Silver Strikers following a successful preseason tour in Lilongwe. The Harare Giants completed a double over Silver Strikers, sealing a 3-0 victory yesterday with goals from Tinote Ndameke, McDonald Makuwe and Sean Choto. Silver Strikers have expressed interest in forming a long-term partnership with Caps United, focusing on technical cooperation, player development and business opportunities. Clubs officially say discussions are ongoing. To end the news bulletin, here are the headlines once again. Chatunga Mugabe arrested after shooting at Johannesburg home. Opposition platforms move to unite against Mnangagwa's term extension. Blessed Mhlanga slams media repression at UN convention. And that concludes our bulletin for today. We thank you for listening. From myself, Tinashe Mtamiri, and the entire team at Change Radio, we wish you a good night.